Well, hello and welcome to the Informed Traveler Podcast, a weekly travel podcast where our goal is to help you become a more informed traveler. I'm your host, Randy Sharman. If traveling to South America is on your radar in the coming year, you'll want to hear our upcoming chat with Adam Booth. He is the sales and marketing representative in the U.S. and Canada for Explora, a company that's been named the world's leading expedition company multiple years in a row, specializing in immersive experience across South America. So Adam will join travel expert Onanta Forbes and I in just a few seconds. And then we'll chat with the author of a new book called There Will Come Soft Rains, A Journey Along the Western Front. She is Brianna Gravatt, and she actually walked the entire Western Front. Yes, that Western Front, the one from World War I. It was quite an experience, so Brianna will share her adventure with us. But first, let's kick things off chatting with travel expert Onanta Forbes, who joins us each week to discuss some of the travel news and travel trends. You can follow her adventures on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Onanta Forbes. OnantaForbes.com is her website. And this week we are joined by our special guest, Adam Booth, who is the sales and marketing representative in U.S. and Canada for Explora. Explora.com is the website. Hello to you, Adam, first.
Hi there, Randy. Thank you for the opportunity. Good to be with you.
And Onanta, who joins us every week. I'm going to turn it over to you, Onanta, and just tell us what piqued your interest when you heard what Explora has to offer.
Yeah, it was an exciting opportunity. You know, a lot of my guests and my travelers are looking for alternatives to maybe typical sun destinations in Europe. There seems to be a lot of airlift to South America now. And so I thought, I want to know who I can present to our travelers as an opportunity to explore South America. So with Explora, they travel to different destinations, but I think the best person to tell us about those destinations is Adam. So Adam, tell us where you have your accommodations and the experiences that our travelers can look into.
Sure. Yeah, it would be my pleasure, Onanta. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you both. So again, I as Randy mentioned, I represent a company by the name of Explora, and it's a South American company. It has a long, very storied history that many of our listeners may not know about. So that's why I'm glad to be here to share the story. But it was a company that was founded in 1993 by a man by the name of Pedro Ibanez. So he was a Chilean entrepreneur, very much an entrepreneur as well as a very passionate explorer. He's from Chile, and he used to spend his time, growing up and going down to Chilean Patagonia, at the very bottom of South America, hiking, camping with friends, going on adventures in the mountains, the beautiful forests. And he kind of came up with this idea at a certain point where at this time, kind of slow, intentional travel, very immersive travel wasn't really much of a thing. And he, at least kind of, what he could see and whereabouts he was based out of. And so he kind of came up with an idea that he wanted to begin an exploration company, a travel company that could allow guests to really immerse themselves in remote places of South America. And that's where the company began. And it began opening our first lodge in 1993 in Torres del Paine National Park in Patagonia of Chile. And it's been quite over the past, coming up on about 35 years now, the expansion has been absolutely amazing. Now Explora owns and operates a network of all-inclusive luxury lodges around the entire continent of South America. So they began in Patagonia, as I mentioned, Torres del Paine National Park. It's one of the most famous national parks on Earth. Definitely probably the most famous region of Patagonia. Patagonia is a huge territory shared by Chile and Argentina. And today there is a network of about 9. By the end of the year, we're opening actually 2 more lodges in Patagonia. So by the end of the year, we're going to have 5 lodges in Patagonia, 3 on the Chilean side, and 2 on the Argentina side. And we also have lodges in other exciting places as well. So we have a lodge on the Easter Island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean off the coast of South America, the Atacama Desert in northern Chile, the #1 stargazing destination on the planet, the Sacred Valley of Peru near Machu Picchu, and as well, we have a very interesting experience in the Uyuni salt flats of Bolivia, the largest salt flat on the planet. And so it's very much been quite the expansion since kind of Pedro began the company in 1993. But I would quickly add that the expansion, it's been very deliberate, right? It's been a very, I don't want to say a slow expansion by any means, but a very cautious expansion, because they wanted to make sure that they were building lodges in very deliberate areas, very unique ecosystems, very remote places of South America, that had something truly special to offer to folks, and to allow people to connect to nature, connect to remote ecosystems. So it's been quite an exciting journey since the company began in 1993.
Well, it does sound exciting because a lot of the places that you've just listed off are on a lot of people's bucket list trips. And for me, when I hear that, I get very excited, because one of my bucket lists is to go to Easter Island and to see the beautiful statues and to learn about it, which is part of how you share the experience with the guests. You sit down with them and you kind of go over what they're looking for when they're upon arrival, and then create their time there. Is that correct?
That's perfectly correct. Yeah, you're exactly spot on. So again, we're very much an exploration company. We're pioneering exploration, and our lodges, we just use our lodges as kind of base camps to explore the surrounding ecosystems. And as you mentioned, we're all inclusive, all meals, all drink included, domestic airport transfers included as well. So it's very simple. You fly into the right domestic region and we take over from there. And depending on the destination, we offer anywhere between 30 to 50 guided explorations. And the great thing for all of our guests is virtually none of these activities and explorations have to be pre-booked. All right. So there's a couple exceptions, a couple activities that may have an additional cost or that we may require, advanced notice. But ultimately, the ultimate concept is when your guides come to the lodge, or yourself comes to the lodge, our guides will give you a welcome orientation. They'll sit you down, give you a nice welcome drink after your journey, and kind of figure out, why are you here? What interested you, bringing you to this location? What are you looking to do? What are your physical capabilities? So we're very much an adventurous exploration company. It does not mean that you have to be able to hike a mountain to enjoy your time with us. We can do the hard stuff. We can also do the very gentle, easy stuff as well. We can go on a beautiful kilometer trail walk through the forest with the mountains in the distance, turn around, come back, and then just enjoy the beautiful scenery. So we really have something for everybody, and it all can be decided upon arrival at the lodge. And the great thing is, we reassess every single evening. So at 6:00 in the evening before dinner every single day, our guides will sit back down with you and essentially ask you, how's your day today? How are you feeling? Let's talk about tomorrow. Do you want to sleep in? Do you want to do a half day exploration? Do you want to do a full day exploration? And what they'll do is, if you can kind of imagine it, you'll gather in one of the common areas of the lodge, and they'll pull out a map. And they'll put a map on the table in front of you, and they'll ask you if you want a glass of wine or a beer or a water, whatever you would like. And they'll begin drawing on the map, and they'll say, this is where you went today. This is kind of the area that we explored. These are the options that we have for tomorrow. What do you want to do tomorrow? Where do you want to go? So it's very educational in nature, educating, our guests on the ecosystems that they'll be exploring. And then depending on the destination, we offer a range of activities as far as hiking, horseback riding. We have our own horseback riding stables at some of our destinations, bike riding, e-bikes, snorkeling, scuba diving. So a whole, plethora of activities and explorations that we can offer.
So it really does, encourage couples or solo travelers or small groups to come to the destination and to your properties as a day, right?
Correct. Yeah, I often get asked, what is our typical demographic of guest, and it's a bit of a difficult answer to question to answer, because we do have something for everybody. Ultimately, our guests, our travelers, are people who are curious. They're looking to involve themselves in beautiful natural landscapes. Typically there are more active people who want to get outside and want to learn a thing or two about the ecosystem that they're in. But we get a lot of multi-generational families, with older couples, grandparents, younger parents, young kids, teenagers, and kind of the concept I was just talking about a few minutes ago, where you come to the lodge and decide every single evening what you want to do the next day. It creates opportunities where if you come down as a multi-generational family, not everybody has to do the entire same thing, right? The grandparents or whoever else, they can go on a simple walk, to enjoy the scenery. The kids can go on a horseback ride, or the teenagers can go on a long day hike themselves with their parents. Whatever people want to do, and if they want to split up, if they want to stick together, we have something for everybody. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about it. We want people to, immerse themselves in the way they feel most comfortable. But at the same time, it's a beautiful thing. Our guides, they'll always kind of try and push our guests out of their comfort zones a little bit. Our experiences are very empowering. Like I said, we get a lot of multi-gen families, a lot of couples, a lot of honeymooners celebrating their weddings, of course, and a lot of solo travelers, as you mentioned, Onanta. People who, they want to come down, and experience something for themselves. And they maybe want to participate in some of our small group explorations and engage with other guests of the hotels, other like-minded guests. So ultimately, yeah, we have something for everybody.
And what I like about it too is that South America, the time zones are similar or manageable from North America. So you don't have extreme jet lag, which is good because, going to other destinations like Asia and Europe, you do have to acclimate yourself quite a bit before you can really enjoy the destination. So it's a win-win, destination, the opportunity for Canadians to get to the location, and then experiencing something perhaps new for them. I like it.
Definitely. Yeah, you're correct. There is very little, if any, time change depending on the time of year that you're going. For instance, right now, the time in Chile is the exact same time as Eastern Standard Time. They're on Eastern Standard Time essentially as us. So there would be no time change, and that can fluctuate depending on the year. I also want to kind of highlight a real unique point for us. We're very much involved in sustainability and conservation. We are a company that is B Corp certified, and that essentially means that we maintain very high standards for environmental and social responsibility. There's not many travel companies that are out there that are B Corp certified. And then in addition to that, Explora owns and operates 2 of our very own private conservation reserves. And so one of them is on the edge of Torres del Paine National Park in Patagonia. It's about almost 15,000 acres in size, where we created the conservation reserve in partnership with the Nature Conservancy. And then we also have a conservation reserve in the Atacama Desert of northern Chile called the Puritama Conservation Reserve, which is over 17,000 acres of land that we own. And we do a lot of conservation work. We have a team that is working tirelessly every single day to study the ecosystem, preserve the biodiversity, support the cultural heritage, and so on and so on. And so we're very much involved in these responsible ways of low impact travel and really supporting the ecosystems that we're exploring. So it's a great way to when you come and visit our lodges, there's a deep kind of purposeful meaning behind your stay with us. Check out our website. Randy mentioned it at the beginning, www.explora.com. And you can read all about our different destinations, in Patagonia, in the Atacama Desert. As I mentioned, the Atacama Desert, it's the highest altitude desert on Earth. It's the world's best stargazing destination on the planet. we have our own private observatory, high-powered telescope in the backyard of our lodge, where we can go out with our guests every single evening and take turns, do some initial stargazing, and then take turns using our high-powered telescope to look at the planets, look at the different constellations. So again, it's very, very immersive, very educational. So please, check out our website. You can find all about the destinations we operate in, the conservation reserves. You can read more about that, which I kind of began speaking about. And then, we would love to have, anyone listening come down to Patagonia or Peru to visit Machu Picchu with us, or Easter Island. And I promise you, we're going to take good care of you, and you're going to have an amazing time.
Well, it does sound like an amazing experience. I do like the whole idea of all-inclusive. And when you say lodges, how big of lodges are, like, how many rooms are we talking about? And I get the idea that it's a constant flow of people in and out. It's not like it's a set tour or anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So our lodges, the biggest lodges we operate have 50 rooms. All right. So we have a few lodges that have up to 50 rooms. And then a couple of our lodges go as small as 10 to 20 rooms. And so they're not these huge, kind of more larger, typical all-inclusive that we might be more familiar with. They are kind of smaller in scale. And the really cool thing about them, they are luxury lodges. They are all-inclusive, but they're kind of more understated luxury. The architecture, the lodges are always meant to kind of blend into the surrounding ecosystem. We kind of want to have as low impact as possible, almost act as if we're not there. The emphasis for us is always on the outdoors. And so the lodges are very beautiful, understated luxury, but you're not going to find, TVs in the bedrooms, that sort of thing. We have, swimming pools, jacuzzis, you can get a massage, you can take an afternoon off if you want and get a nice massage. We have the saunas, that sort of thing. But for us, the emphasis is always on the outdoors.
Do you have Wi-Fi?
We have, yes. It's a great question.
Because everybody wants that.
we have perfectly operating Wi-Fi at every single destination. I was just last year, I hosted a group of travelers to our lodge on Easter Island, which is a 5-hour flight into the middle of the Pacific Ocean, very remote, one of the most remote islands on Earth. Of course, as Onenta mentioned, famous for the Moai statue. There's almost 1,000 of these statues all across the island. And even in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, we have perfectly operating Wi-Fi. So we get a lot of travelers who, they're busy people, they want to stay in touch with their loved ones back home, or they got to do some work on the laptop, whatever the case may be. We have perfectly operating Wi-Fi at all of our destinations.
Well, if you're traveling with teenagers, you got to have Wi-Fi so they could at least get an hour of gaming in, no matter how wonderful the surroundings are around them.
Correct. Yeah, that's another important point as well. So no worries. You're not going to be that totally removed from technology. You're going to have the essentials. So there's a nice combination of the two, the surrounding ecosystem as well as the technology needed to not go too crazy, right?
Well, it does sound like a great way to explore South America. As you mentioned, people can get more information on your website, explora.com. Adam Booth joining us, sales and marketing representative in U.S. and Canada for Explora. Any last words, Adam?
So I do encourage everyone to go on the website, read about our destinations. If you've never been to South America before, my mom, she just visited our lodge in Peru and went to Machu Picchu a couple of weeks ago. That was her first time to the continent, and she had an absolute amazing time. So if you've never been to South America before, this is maybe a new kind of more adventurous, off the beaten path destination for yourself. We make it very easy. We take very good care of you. And I promise you're going to have an amazing time with us, and some awesome stories to bring home to your loved ones and for yourself, more importantly. So that's kind of where I would leave it off with.
So appreciate you joining us, Adam. Appreciate you doing this. And thanks again to the both of you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it.
This is the Informed Traveler Podcast. I'm Randy Sharman. Just want to remind you of our website, theinformedtraveler.org. That's where you can find our contact page if you have any questions or comments about the podcast. You could also email me, too, with any questions you might have. My email address is randy@theinformedtraveler.org. You can check out our social media pages, too, at facebook.com/informedtraveler, Instagram at informedtraveler, or on X at informedtraveler. That's where you'll find a number of videos and reels from our adventures throughout the year and audio clips from our past shows. Plus, you can sign up for our monthly newsletter. It's released at the beginning of every month. Our April issue is now available. Just go to our website, theinformedtraveler.org, click on the newsletter button, and it'll take you right there. Or better yet, you can subscribe to it and have it arrive in your inbox each month. So I was looking forward to this conversation for quite some time. It's with the author of a new book called There Will Come Soft Rains, A Journey Along the Western Front. And she is Brianna Gravatt. Her website is briannagravatt.com. Brianna joins us now to share her adventure with us. Hello, Brianna. It's so nice to chat with you.
Hey, Randy. It's so nice to chat with you, too.
I'm excited to hear all about your book, There Will Come Soft Rains, A Journey Along the Western Front. I'm a bit of a history nut, and especially when it comes to military history. But as your website says, this isn't just about the Great War, is it? There's much more to it.
Yes, no, absolutely. There's so much military history regarding the Great War that, there are so many wonderful historians that have dedicated so much of their time and their writing to it that I wanted to tell the story of what the war still means to this day and the impact that it has on the world that we live in.
So what came first, the idea of walking along the Western Front or the idea of a book, or the both come hand to hand? How did it all come about?
The idea of walking the Western Front came first, but obviously as soon as the idea came, I thought I have to write a book about it. I can't just walk the Western Front and say nothing about it.
I would think so. And was it all planned out, or just sort of Forrest Gump it and start walking kind of idea?
No, it was no. So I was very lucky. So I connected with the founders of the Western Front Way, which was an organization that was founded to promote the dream of a British soldier that died in the Great War, who dreamed of making a path of peace along the Western Front that people can come to and practice a pilgrimage and really learn from the mistakes and the tragedy of war.
So how long did it take you to walk this? I mean, again, you didn't sort of plan from start to finish, and it's like, okay, I feel good today, I'll keep going, or there's a hotel down the road, I can stay a night. How did this? Again, it's just amazing to me.
Well, okay, so I had a hotel on my back because I carried a tent.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the days it was kind of, I had an idea of the legs of the journey that I wanted to complete. But generally, because it was, a lot of walking, sometimes it was between 12 and like 16 miles. Like 16 miles would be the amount that I would be like, that's more than enough to walk in a day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're doing this by yourself, right?
Yes, very much by myself. And a lot of the time I was alone entirely because I didn't see anyone. You might hear cars in the distance or something, but generally speaking, you didn't see anybody, even in small hamlets. It was eerie in a lot of ways, but also profoundly beautiful.
Uh-huh. So where did the title come from now? There Will Come Soft Rains, again, is the title of the book, and it's a journey along the Western Front. So where did the title spring about?
So as I was writing the book, for the first year, maybe even the first 2 years, so it took me 3 years to write the book. But I was struggling. I was like, what do I call it? Because, there's a lot of people that will say, don't judge a book by its cover and all this other stuff. But I truly think a title is what, invites people to read the book. Mm-hmm. And so I played around with all these other things. And then I was reading, as writers do, they get distracted. And I was reading Ray Bradbury's on writing. Mm-hmm. And he talked about a short story that he wrote called There Will Come Soft Rains, from a poem written in response to the end of World War I.
Ah, okay.
And I thought, what a beautiful title for a book.
Mm-hmm.
So I stole it. I ripped it off.
Credit to Ray Bradbury.
And
So,
Sarah Teasdale. And Sarah Teasdale.
so like, did you make notes along the way? Again, I'm just fascinated by how this all comes about, where you just decide to walk along the Western Front, following certain battles, certain trenches. Like where did you have a map that you kind of followed? Like, how did this?
Okay, so the Western Front Way was actually like they actually mapped it out, and they had different paths for hiking and biking and even maybe even driving, but obviously I'm not a road biker, so I'm like I'm going to walk. So
Mhm.
I followed this. I had this GPS system that I was able to follow the way, and it's not like it wasn't the Western Front shifted, whether it was
Mhm.
5 meters or 2 miles, it did shift. So I walked not a straight line, but just I found my way from the border of France and Switzerland all the way to the North Sea. So I followed. I went through the battlefields of Verdun, the battlefields of the Marne, the Somme, and then eventually the Ypres salient, all the way to the sea. So I followed that path through some of the major places and then also with the ability to visit the memorials that have been built around them.
Mhm. And like we said at the beginning, it's not just a story about the Great War. It's not just about battles. It's just the whole feelings that you get standing in certain areas. So were some places that stood out for you more than others, and what were some of the more moving moments that just sort of hit you that you didn't think was going to happen?
I mean, being American, I've gone to so many of the Civil War battlefields. You
Hmm.
go to Gettysburg or even like being on Long Island with the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War, that there is these major battles. So I had experienced those kinds of things before,
Hmm.
but I wasn't expecting, I don't know. I like, you go to those places and they're kind of cordoned off but the Western Front is just so expansive. It just never ends.
Hmm.
So, you come across the first bunker or you come across the first trench, and then you never stop coming across them. There's not a day that goes by that you don't pass something that is a reminder of the war.
Hmm.
And so the most profound place for me was Verdun, where one of the most horrific battles of the war took place. And it was such a powerfully haunting place. And it was difficult to be there because they kept on fighting, and then to alleviate the fighting that took place there, they're like, oh, let's start the Battle of the Somme. That'll stop it. That'll end the war. And you go with this knowledge, the hindsight is 2020, and you're just like,
Hmm.
what is this? What, you being a history buff, history just repeats. It just continues to repeat, and we don't learn anything from it.
Hmm. It's interesting that it's not like you're taking sides, right? Did it matter what side you were on?
No, I think that when if you look through the lens of the Great War, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like, a lot of people still look at the Great War and like, oh, the German Boche, and they were just so awful. And it was like,
Hmm.
hey, it takes two to tango, especially in the
Hmm.
Great War. You can't, I don't think that you can take sides. I think that you can look back and think, wow, what a ridiculous amount of men that decided this was a great idea,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't think that with the Great War you could sit there and say, okay, the French and the British and the Americans and the Allies were right, and the Entente was entirely wrong.
Hmm.
So
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's like when you're walking along the front, well, depending on which direction you're going, on the left side, it could be the German soldiers. On the right side, it's the Allied soldiers or French soldiers or whatever, right? And it's amazing to me when you say it, like the front moved. And so one battle, they would maybe gain a few hundred yards. And then the next week or so, they would lose a few hundred yards. And in between all that is thousands and thousands of dead soldiers.
exactly. So I think that in a way, like, looking at the war in that way, looking at it as a war of attrition and stalemate and stagnation, or just such a small amount of movement, that you can't take sides because it's just all sorrowful. It's all
Hmm.
a grievous experience.
So what it's like? Again, I'm sort of at a loss for words here because it's not a military strategy book. It's about feelings and what you got out of it and everything like that. So give me some highlights of what struck you, what you were surprised about, maybe some of the people you met along the way.
All right, there's a lot to unpack there. All right, so
Exactly. I know it's not a fair question, is it?
all right, well, that's three questions, so we'll pull it apart. So what struck me? I think I'm such a nature oriented person. I love being outside. I try to get out as much as I can every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the opportunity, the ability to camp out and to be out there and to watch the sunrise and watch the sunset and then experience all the beauty of the French rural landscape. That I think was what made walking through this devastated landscape more bearable, made
Mm-hmm.
it more, made it a little easier. You know, obviously walking 16 miles is not an easy feat every day. Walking
Mm-hmm.
500 miles is not, but I think that was one of the most impactful things. That was, you know, just waking up and knowing I'm going to spend the entire day outside and I'm going to learn something. I'm going to feel something. I'm going to see something. I think that's what enabled me to keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like, it's funny because a lot of people, you know, being American, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, the French don't like us. I didn't have that experience.
That's good.
Yeah. I talked to people. I met so many wonderful people. And a lot of the times people like the French are very kind of like nonchalant, be like, oh yeah, you have to love France. You have to like us. You know, here's our food. Here's our wine. Here's our art. Here, take it. And if you do, they're so much more receptive. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the people would see my backpack and my boots and be like, oh, what are you doing? And then I'm like, oh, je suis marché le chemin de la Grande Guerre. Like I was walking the path of the Great War. And they're like, okay, cool. Have fun.
See ya.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, all right, keep going. There's a lot of it.
Well, there is the logistics part of it too. I mean, camping every day, setting up camp, food, water, supplies, all those things. How did you manage that?
Well, I didn't camp every day. Like there was like I would camp for 2 nights and then stay at a hotel, you know, but with food, I honestly really became enamored with sardines and cashews.
I was going to say sea rations, maybe just to feel what the soldiers felt, but
Really, honestly, like the way you said that never ending now that you say it like that. Yeah, I probably rationed myself with like things that I can carry and yeah, so I would like that was like my backup supply. So I would make sure that I at least had some food and enough water. But after a while, you know, when you're walking in the heat of August, no amount of water is enough.
True. Is it an easy walk though? Like, can anyone do it?
It depends on their mental and physical fortitude, I guess.
Well, I wouldn't say all 500 miles, but if someone wanted to do a short little like walk, maybe for a couple of days, just to get the idea of it, is that possible? And I suppose people do it all the time, do they not?
I think that there's been a really big uptick in the amount of people. I think that a lot of people go to visit the battlefield. So, you know, you have a lot of the Brits that go visit the Somme and they'll go for July 1st, which is the first day of the Somme. And then you have people that, you know, you'll have young men in the German military that will go to the battlefields, and you have Americans that go over, but a lot of Americans that go over will go to Normandy and visit the World War II sites as opposed to the World War I sites.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if they were to walk it, I would recommend, if they are not walkers or avid hikers, go to the north, which is a little more flat and the battlefields are more concentrated.
Mm-hmm. Are the monuments, not necessarily the monuments, like the battle sites preserved well? Like, you know, you're walking along a trench, even though it's probably covered. It's been over 100 years now. So are they preserved? Are they well marked?
Now they are well marked. So the Western Front Way really got a like the idea to mark the trail, but the ever since after the First World War, because there was so many people that lost their lives and so many women, fathers and mothers lost their sons in the most horrific ways, they I think in 1919 was when they unveiled the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Hmm.
And then it was not long after that that they started building the monuments to dedicate to the soldiers that had fallen. And so a lot of the battlefields, you have monuments from the 1920s that they're still they're profound. And then there's manicured cemeteries, and they're still finding bodies. So it's you go through these major battlefields, and there are really, really large war memorials that you can visit, or you can go through the smaller places like I did and see remnants of a bunker or a trench line. And so it's interesting because you have these massive places that commemorate the dead, and then you have these smaller places that, I say at one point in my book that there's pretty much a cemetery for every kilometer that I walked along the Western Front.
Wow. So what do you want people to get most out of your book when they read it?
That French food is delicious. No, just kidding. No, what I want them to have a better understanding of how just epic history is, and how we can't compartmentalize it. Like, we can't just sit there and talk about the Great War and be like, okay, it began in August 1914 and it ended on November 11th, 1918, and then all these things happened. Like, you have to look at it, what happened before it and what happened after, and that it's like it's just this ebb and flow and this tide, and that you can't just be like, okay, I know about the Great War because I know those dates. You can't.
It's not just statistics and numbers.
Exactly. It's people, it's artists, it's painters, it's mothers who lost their sons, it's wives who lost their husbands, it's children that lost their fathers. It's so many stories woven into one lamentation, one funeral dirge. So ideally, not ideally, but the optimist in me, the person that is hopeful, is that someone might pick up my book and think, wow, that's not about my trip. Like, my journey was my journey, and I don't expect everybody to understand it or want to undertake it themselves, but I just want someone to take a step back and look at history and be like, oh my gosh, this was really, really sad.
Well, I think, that's what it is. It's really, really sad. And I think people should keep remembering what happened. And this is one way to do it. And if someone wanted to do this, then so what's a good way to start? What's a good way to maybe, take in a few days of a particular battlefield if you wanted to visit?
I would choose, like, say there's a lot of people that have relatives that fought in the war, or they have connections to certain places. So I would say pick that place and then pick areas around that. And what's beautiful about technology these days is that, like, not only can you use, you can develop your own hiking trail as well and say, I want to see X, Y, and Z. I want to see these points along the Western Front, and visit them. And also, like, the internet is a beautiful thing in those ways as well, because say you do want to get from one place to another, like, do you want to rent a car? Do you want to, like, I would recommend, if you want to see a lot of it and you don't want to walk the whole thing, definitely have a lot more structure than I did.
How do people get the book? Can they go on your website and just order it?
They can order through Amazon. I'm trying to find a way to make it a lot more available, both through my website and through another way. But for now, Amazon is the way to go.
The book is called There Will Come Soft Rains, A Journey Along the Western Front, and Brianna Gravatt is the author. You can find out more information about Brianna on her website, briannagravatt.com. Appreciate your time, Brianna. It was amazing chatting with you.
Yes, absolutely, Randy. It was amazing chatting with you as well.
And that is our show for this week. If you have comments or questions, we'd love to hear from you. If you have a show idea, send that along as well. My email is randy@theinformedtraveler.org. And if you like what you heard, tell a friend. You can check out our website too at theinformedtraveler.org. In the meantime, thanks for listening, travel safe, and be an informed traveler.